Yes, yes. Welcome to Muthaphuckkin Valuable Perspectives. I am your host, Enrico Moses, and today I'm super excited to be here with a good buddy of mine, man. Me and CJ Johnson have, we've connected here in LA, and I've learned a lot from this brother, man. Like, there's been times where he's helped me get out of my ruts, so I just feel like I want to sit down with him and dive into his mentality, his mindset, and drop some motherfucking value for y'all. So welcome, CJ.
Dope. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited to see you. Thank you for those kind words. Yeah, you've obviously been a great inspiration, great friend, great ally, and so many different things in life. So I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, brother. I want to just dive right in.
Sure.
When did you move out to LA, and what made you come out to LA? I think that's such a big move for so many people. So I would love to hear that story.
Sure. You know what? Ever since I was a little boy, I always dreamed of moving to Los Angeles and being in the entertainment industry. And it wasn't until way later in life that I understood really what my purpose was and why I wanted to come to LA in the first place. But since I was a kid, the whole goal was always for me to go to college in Los Angeles. At the time, my family lived in the Marshall Islands on a small island called Kwajalein. Everybody go look it up, Kwajalein.
Yeah, where's that? I've never
It's in the Marshall Islands, 3 miles long, 1 mile wide, and that's where we test our missile defense. If anybody attacks us, Kwajalein is what protects us.
Shutting that shit down.
Shut it down so we can do our thing. And as soon as I was 18 years old, I came to Los Angeles to go to art school, and I never left.
Yep,
I've been out here ever since.
That tends to happen.
Yeah.
So you came out here for entertainment, and then when you got here, what was the scene like for you? What was your experience like when you first got here?
Wow, I'm really good at understanding human behavior and community, and I was privileged enough. My dad was in the U.S. Army. That's the reason why we lived in the Marshall Islands at one point. And I got the opportunity to just sort of move all around the world. And when I got to Los Angeles, it was a completely different dynamic than anything I'd ever seen. The culture is very much dreamers and people that are aspiring to do something for themselves.
Yep.
So Los Angeles isn't the type of community that you can move to from somewhere else and then it's just with open arms.
Right.
You really
because everyone's just fighting for themselves.
Yeah, everybody's and it can be very disheartening for you if you don't understand that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people where it's a 2-year cap and then they had to leave.
And then they judge LA LA so Hollywood. And
they talk about the traffic.
So fake.
They talk about people being fake, but in reality, it's just that you have to understand. Even you came out here, and I think that's the thing that kind of where that bubble bursts for a lot of people. Why they can't handle living out here for so long if they do leave, is that they come out here thinking that everybody's gonna welcome me with open arms, but in reality, everybody's out here for the same reason you are.
Yep, and you're competition to them.
And you're competition to them, right? And that's another thing: the abundance mindset and the scarcity mindset. You have to really work hard to find your group, your community.
Yep.
One thing that's kind of interesting is that I actually tapped into every community in LA. When I first got here to LA, my roommate was a black British dude who used to play professional basketball. So I was hanging out with all these black celebrities and gangsters and all sorts of weird shit in the beginning of my experience living in Los Angeles.
How was that for you?
Well, I got a chance to see a lot of things that you hear about in pop culture in reality. And it was one of those things when you're growing up, I think you have the opportunity to make mistakes. You have the opportunity to see what different types of cultures, who you are, identifying who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And I just tapped into all these different communities. 1 minute I'm in Koreatown, the next minute I'm in Chinatown, hanging out with the Triad at one point. I'm in East LA. Hanging out with the wrong type of crowd as well. I don't know how that happened. The wrong crowd.
It happens.
But it was just me experiencing all that LA had to offer. So I had that opportunity. I live near Venice. We live in the same area. So I used to hang out with a lot of surfers. so I was able to really just kind of see what the vibe was like in LA, and eventually I did find my community of friends and grew a family out here. And yeah, the entertainment industry was. I was recruited by Mattel Toys out of college.
What were you studying in college?
So I went to college to study film and television. I wanted to be a screenwriter. And it was really funny because before I got here to LA, I was like, well, maybe I should be an actor. And, the cool thing about going to school in Los Angeles, film school, is that I actually got to see what everything was like.
Right.
And
which helps because it's like a lot of that is just your ideals of what it might be.
Well, yeah, because I think a lot of times when people glamorize the entertainment industry and they don't realize that it's actually like, it's long hours.
It's one of the hardest industries.
It's one of the hardest industries
to survive and thrive.
If you're in front of the camera, people are literally selecting you off of like your personality, if they like you,
and your looks, it's all judgment.
And then you're going to see other people that look just like you. So if they get something that you don't, you're kind of like it can really mess with you psychologically. And then behind the scenes. Which is what I found a lot more success in. I found success in both areas, but behind the scenes is where I really made a career for myself. Producing, video editing, directing, writing, all of that. That whole world was very kind to me. So video editing was actually how I started at Mattel Toys.
That's dope. I remember when I first sat with you, it was at like this restaurant in Venice, right? We sat down, we were vibing, drinking.
El Cantina, right?
Yeah, I think
Baja
it was
Cantina?
Baja Cantina, and you were talking about like doing SEO and kind of getting into that space. So like, how did you go from like entertainment to kind of getting into like the tech and marketing side of things?
Absolutely. So and this is where I talk about my purpose. I thought that I was like out here to maybe like make a movie. And if you're curious what that looked like for me, I always thought I was going to be like Ryan Coogler. I thought I was going to make some independent film that touched on social issues and then make like a fucking comic book movie. And it's like this huge movie. And I'm going to be the guy that fucking makes Black Panther. Like I thought I was going to be that guy. I really did. I really fucking did. And Ryan Coogler totally did that shit.
Was Fruitvale Station, was that his first one?
Fruitvale Station, yeah.
So great.
And then Creed. So I was a huge Rocky fan growing up. So I mean, I was like, I literally would have done all of the same things that he fucking did.
Crushed Creed too.
Yeah, because I would have done the same thing. I'd have been like, hey, you know what? Why don't we do a fucking sequel except it's Apollo Creed's son, starring Michael B. Jordan? I'm shitting you not. That was in a fucking like to-do list, a dream book of mine. Literally,
he was stalking you, man. He took your ideas.
He stole my identity. No, he stole everything I wanted.
That motherfucker.
What I realized though was that I understood the feeling that I wanted people to have when they saw my projects.
What was that feeling?
And that feeling was, like when you're watching something or you're having a conversation with somebody and you're like, oh shit, I never thought of it like that. I was really drawn to stories that have plot twists and character twists.
Why is that?
I've always been fascinated with mysteries. I've always been fascinated with unlocking mysteries. I think one of the I got the privilege of seeing J.J. Abrams talk in person, and he talked a lot about the mystery box. And there's something about that always clicked with me. And that mystery box is like, you don't know what's in that box. It's a full-on mystery. You don't know what you're going to get out of that box. And like that's the allure of the box, is that you don't know what's inside of it.
Right. If you know, then kind of like surprise.
Exactly. And the fact that guy made a whole career off of storytelling based on of that one concept of like the mystery box is like insane to me. So what I understood was I wanted people to have that like aha moment, and then also be able to take time away from whatever's going on in their life. So that did mean entertaining them. But as I was growing older, I was like, it's more so inspirational for me. Not at all to sound cheesy or corny at all. I'm not talking about like, shake off the cobwebs. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, people, at the end of the day, each and every one of us wants to be heard and know that we had some sort of significant impact before we leave.
That we're here. We were on this earth.
That's it. That's it. And if you understand that, is the key motivator for anybody in any walk of life, in any culture, in any setting in the world, then it's easy for you to not take things so personal. It's easier for you to understand that, like, hey, you know what? I understand that, like, maybe I don't agree with this person, but they want the same things I want to. They just might not see the world the same way.
In their unique way.
In their own unique way. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure I was doing things that offered a unique perspective on things. That's all. And I think as a black man, as an affluent black man, you know, there's cultures that just don't even know what that looks like. And it's my privilege, my honor, my duty to show younger black men, or even older black men, doesn't matter, just people of color, even men or even women, just like, this is what it looks like as a person of color. You know, you can do whatever you want. You can be whoever you want. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You don't have to like succumb to these like stereotypes. You don't have to walk this like straight line that people think you're gonna walk. Like, fuck that. Like, be your own self. Be innovative. That's one of the reasons why we get along so well.
Yep. Yeah, it's so key, and I think, you know, as a black man, I agree. And this show is for people of color. It is for black people to be able to see themselves in us, awesome. In success. And like what you mentioned, it's for everybody, right? Because I think as a black man, what that means is we've been disenfranchised. And I think there's a lot of other people, other races, you know, everybody's been disenfranchised in some place in their life. And
Absolutely.
I think, you know, standing up is one of the most disenfranchised groups, and teaching people how you've gotten past it, your mindset. I think it's so valuable for everybody. So what are some of the things, you know, in that vein that, like, as a black man, you know, working through entertainment, getting into tech, like some of the big lessons that you've learned as far as overcoming some of your obstacles? Because that's some of the things that we always talk about, is just as far as like mindset.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm sorry because I totally went on this rant, but entertainment and technology and SEO, all that marketing, all that stuff, I found it to be all of it connected.
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, it was like these systems were in place to build revenue streams off of like the customer, and the value proposition is that I'm taking you away from whatever's going on in your life. So that's the goal of a commercial, music video, TV show,
change
film.
behavior.
It's literally to get you to take a pause from what's going on in your life and be attracted to what I'm hopefully what you're listening to or seeing, right? So some of the lessons that I learned, there was a lot of growing pains. Here's something that you might find fascinating. A lot of the opportunities that I got in the entertainment industry were by people that just thought I was a cool guy. And a lot of them were white. Most of the obstacles that I had overcome were through black men. Some of them, a good number of them, are very, very famous, well-known actors and filmmakers that just were not at all trying to help other people out and lift them up.
Why do you think that is?
Because, and it's not the case now, but at the time, you know, it's just very scarce.
Yeah, a lot of scarcity mindset.
It's very scarcity. Yeah, it's like, even right now, if you talk about like, the problem is this. The problem is that we move so quickly in our society and things change so often that we think, oh, wow, there's not a lot of black talent out there. There's not a lot of Asian talent out there. There's not a lot of Hispanic talent out there. But in reality, there's a shit ton of it out there. And because people don't believe that, they leave the door open just a little bit, just a crack. So only a few can get through. And once a few get through and you start getting money, you start getting fame, you start getting a lot of people in your ear, you do change. I've seen it. I've 100% seen it. You know, when you think about somebody, when we use that term Uncle Tom, you know, how does someone become an Uncle Tom? It's very easy to become an Uncle Tom, honestly, because if you're disenfranchised your entire life and then you're given all this shit, you don't know what to do with it. And then who are you getting advice from? And then when you're looking around, if other people don't look like you, you're going to be following their lead.
Doing what they're doing.
Exactly. Now, that was then. The difference is now is that like now, you see us, we're here.
There's more
right?
of us.
Yeah, we can have that conversation. So if I'm saying, what are you doing with your money? And you say, go fuck yourself, that's the problem, right? But if you say, this is what I'm doing, what are you doing? That's sharing knowledge.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
That's where we're at right now. So that's the difference. Now, entertainment, because a lot of that, the value proposition of people that are in the entertainment industry, how they feel empowered, how they find success, a lot of that are vanity metrics.
Like
money, fame, power, sex.
Yep. And have
doesn't matter
access
what doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what if you're a man or a woman. Those are those vanity metrics that you feel like you get awarded being in the entertainment industry. So if you're after that, you're after the wrong reasons. Okay. Now a lot of people won't admit to that, but that's true.
I love that. So those are the vanity metrics. What I'm curious are, what are the metrics that are important to you?
Friendships, family, contribution to my community, legacy. That's really the reason why it was so easy for me to slip into technology. Because then when you talk about startup culture, you're basically talking about all of these people from all different walks of life are like, I have an idea and I want to change the world. Yep. It's like, shit, like that's way more interesting than like, I got to look a certain way because I want to walk on the red carpet, or like I got access to a VIP party. It's like, dude, I'm telling you this right now. I've walked the red carpet. You walked the red carpet with me. You were with me. We've been in GQ magazine together, side by side. Yeah. Like,
thanks for that.
I forgot about that. But see what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't matter. We're not here talking about that.
That wasn't the highlight of our last several years.
No, I'm sure you remember conversations that we had, us going on walks,
facts,
us like, that's what matters to me. So my duty, a part of what I do for a living, is to empower people where they're like, yo, you can find time to do that and get those vanity metrics. You just need to be able to think about what's a priority and prioritizing, what's important to you.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I think, working in tech has been so interesting for me because there's a lot of, it's more like meritocracy built, right? Okay. It's like, what can you create? Right. Like the metrics that are in tech are like, what are the numbers? Right. How are people coming back? And that's such an important thing, rather than it's like, oh, I made a bunch of money on this project, where it's like, well, did they watch it again? Did they tell their friends?
Well, so let me ask you this then. There's this tug of war with artistic integrity, right? Like, I made a movie to express myself. I made a song to express myself. It doesn't matter if I get paid or not. But then when you talk about like tech, it's so metric based. It's like, well, if the song didn't get downloaded a lot, then is it a really good song? If nobody paid a lot of money to see the movie, why would we greenlight another one?
Yeah, my thought around that is there's kind of two parts of being a creative, right? You have this expression that you want to share with the world, or you almost don't even like maybe care. You're just like, this is my expression, I'm going to create it. And I think that's step one. I think step two is being honest with ourselves as far as what do we want the result of this creation to be, right? Because we can all just create and keep it in our closet, never share it with anybody, and we are expressed. That's a true expression. But I think once you get honest with yourself and say, why do I want people to listen to this? Who are the specific type of people that I want to listen to this? And you start asking yourself those questions, then you have a responsibility, right? It's that's what I like about tech. It's like tech to me is all about asking the questions. Like,
absolutely.
How many people came to the website?
Absolutely.
Did they come back?
Yeah.
And so when you start asking yourself those questions as a creative, then it's now you have you have to come up with a plan. It's like if I want people to listen to this, it's not enough for me to just record it. It's intentional.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with that. I think that for me, that's the reason why it was so interesting to me. I was just so interested in that because I'm like, damn, like if I understand how I'm connecting with people, if I can see actual numbers to that, then I know what I'm doing right. I know what I'm doing wrong.
Yep.
And it's hard, right, to argue against people of color getting situations of like empowerment and getting paid like the amount of money they should be getting paid for the amount of work they put in, because it's all metric based.
Yep. And that's another metric, right? How much am I putting into this project? Time, resources, and then how much am I getting out?
Absolutely.
You know,
and that's also that's also what's so funny about that is that also answers a lot of the questions about like unconscious bias, racial bias, sexual bias, all biases of all sorts, is that you can see it in the numbers. Like there's just like, you can't deny that. So if people are still going to act like an asshole, then it's like, okay, well, this is personal. It is not at all business
about the
related.
data.
Yeah, well, we were fucking lied to, right?
Yep.
Like we were lied to for years, centuries. That if you're people of color, then you there is the black film.
Nobody wants to watch what you guys are doing.
Nobody wants to watch the black film. Like hip hop, it's so lowbrow, right? If you're fucking Hispanic and you're speaking in Spanish and on these mediums that people can see what your culture looks like. Same thing with if you're an Asian culture, just like Indian culture, whatever, Jewish. You're like showing what your culture is like. And people aren't going to relate to
White
that.
people don't want to see that.
Nobody wants to see that.
White people don't want to see what black people are doing.
It's just even like, who the fuck said that? Everybody wants to see, you know, how would you know that unless you try it? And the fucked up thing about it, this is where the lie is that now we have numbers that completely support that you were wrong. People across all spectrums would pay a lot of money to support and see those things, because it's the reality of things. And even if it's not the reality of their world, they're introduced to a new world.
What's so interesting to me about that is, as black people, it was never a question if we were going to be interested in Superman or Batman or Spider-Man, which didn't look like us. It was never like, why would you guys want to see this? But there was this question of like, but we don't want to watch what you guys are doing. And now with like black, all the things that are out, it's very obvious that was not true.
No, it wasn't true at all. I mean, like it was all a fucking lie. And that's the game. That I think there's two games, right? And I love Simon Sinek. I think he coined this phrase. I'm pretty sure I'm almost positive he heard it from somebody else. He did. I just don't remember the gentleman's name. Author Simon Sinek and speaker. Look him up if you don't know who that is.
He's awesome.
But he talks a lot about the infinite game, where there is no like finish line,
right?
And that's life. Life is the infinite game, right? And then there's the finite game, where there's goals and there's metrics and there's like I want to buy a new car by July, right? That kind of shit. And for me, I'm always playing the infinite game. When it comes to this type of conversation and this type of business ethics, I'm playing the infinite game because I understand the big picture. I understand if you're saying, CJ, you're a smart guy. I mean, we like you. You're obviously a very creative guy, but I mean, what do you know about investing? That's pretty much what I've been doing my entire life is budgeting.
Right.
And the fact that like my background, all you literally would have to do is put 2 and 2 together. You work with a lot of startups? Yeah. What do you do with the startups? Marketing? Does that mean that you know how to do budgets? Yeah. Oh, producing. What does that mean? Finding money, budgeting,
allocating.
What are we talking about here? What the fuck are we talking about?
Right.
How do I even live? How am I even in this conversation with you? And that's why, you have to understand when we play the infinite game, I always look for 3 times on the return on investment on all the situations that I do, personal and professional. I'm like, what's the win-win-win out of this? Yep. I don't think win-win. I don't think even win-lose. I think what's the win-win-win out of this?
That's the best game theory that you can think about any problem, right? And I think that we're leaving this almost era of like, if I win, someone has to lose, right? Even if you look at the stock market, it's a zero-sum game. So what I want to ask you is, you have, strategically, you're so good at like coming up with like a strategy for content, strategy for your life. It's kind of how I see you, right? And so how did you start that mentality of like thinking strategically about projects in your life, and how can you kind of like walk people through that process of like, wherever you are right now, like how do you start to elevate up? I think that's something that you've done such a good job at, you know, of me observing you.
Yeah, interesting. I didn't realize that I was doing a lot of weird things as a kid. So that's that. So it did start as a child. Mm-hmm. So one of the things is like forming a habit. Mm-hmm. So the habit that I formed was chunking time. Mm-hmm. So time chunking. That means like, you know, 6 to 8 p.m. I would do X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason why I was doing time chunking as a kid is because we moved around so much and we were in different time zones. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that I really had to level me out that was consistent was primetime television, right? Mm-hmm. So I always knew, no matter what, my homework, whatever, I was hanging out, I wanted to be home in time for 8 to 10 p.m. to watch my TV shows.
Mm-hmm. Needed that.
That's it. That's literally
TGI
it.
Fridays.
TGI Fridays. Yeah, man. So I'm like, okay. So, and I understood, because I watched a lot of movies and my parents were pretty hard on me. Mm-hmm. They were pretty strict. Mm-hmm. They wanted the best for me. But what everybody kept doing was like, if you want to go to Los Angeles, that's a big city. It's tough. Not everybody's going to be an actor. Not everybody's going to be an actress. You're not going to be able to make it unless you study now. Right. So that mentality was like, I'm going to do it. You know, I'm going to put that work in and chunk my time. So I was always like about that. And so that's a second nature now. So time management became a thing. Nice. So the leveling up, and we were talking about this a little bit earlier off camera. There is no roadmap. There still isn't a specific roadmap.
Like a book.
There's no book. If you do Google searches, you don't find a lot of information. You do YouTube, you talk to a friend, you talk to another friend. I mean, I want to say for the first 30 years of my life, the older I was getting, the more and more me and my group of friends were asking ourselves the question of, who do you know that has a lot of money? Mm-hmm. If we ever wanted somebody to invest in our film project, who do we go to? Right. How do all these people keep doing all these things? Mm-hmm. How do I have access? And by the way, I still hear that question. Mm-hmm. It's not an age thing, right? Yep. And then one day, I turn around and I'm just in a room full of investors. Mm-hmm. And I'm in a room full of people that I'm having a different type of conversation with. Yep. So what it really was that I understood what my goals were. Mm-hmm. I made them tangible. Mm-hmm. Then I achieved those tangible goals, and then I just kept stretching those goals out. Mm-hmm. And then being hungry enough to see opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that's something that it's hard to articulate unless you know what I'm talking about. Right. Some of you know what I'm talking about, and some of you actually have no clue what I mean by that. What I mean is, when the stocks go down, right now, we live in a world where somebody's like, buy the dip, right? Mm-hmm. You can buy the dip. Or don't do anything, right? Mm-hmm. But when something drops, that means that there's an opportunity and a hole that comes up somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So for me, I was asking different types of questions. Mm-hmm. So instead of me saying, well, what do I do? Instead, I'm just like, well, if this is dropping, what's the thing that's rising?
Right. Curiosity.
And staying curious, and staying curious and wanting, visualizing what you want, and staying curious and asking more critical questions. Right. So the thing that fucks us up a lot is that, you know, some people can tell you these things of what they want. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people can tell you more so what they don't want than what they do. Yep. So that's the hard part too. Yep. Is being able to be honest with yourself of saying that I want something. Right. So,
and let me jump in because I agree. A lot of people know what they don't want. Mm-hmm. Some people know what they want, and a lot of people know what they want but don't know what it takes to get that.
And that's where I was. Absolutely. And that's where I was going with that. Is that, like, you know, you can say, yo, I want a beautiful woman. Yep. Right? I want a beautiful woman to be with. Mm-hmm. Okay, great. So what's an example of a beautiful woman to you? Mm-hmm. What does she look like? Mm-hmm. What does she like? What does she dislike? Mm-hmm. What kind of guys does she date? Mm-hmm. And then, are you that guy? Yep. Yep. And that's very simple of breaking it down and reverse engineering, because then next thing you know, oh, I'm going to dress better. I'm going to work out a little bit more. I'm going to change my friend group a little bit more. I'm going to do X, Y, and Z to match that energy of what she's looking for.
Yep.
And then by the time, sorry, go ahead.
Now I was going to say that it reminds me of one of the best quotes I've ever heard in my life, which was essentially, in order to get what you want, you have to just become the person that deserves that.
Oof.
And the thing about wanting things and why I have a problem with people saying, well, this is what I want and not following up is if we went out on the street here in LA and we asked 100 people, how much money do you want to make in a year? Yeah. The price and what they're going to say compared to what they're willing to potentially do the work to get are usually two different things. So I just think that like I want people to be less concerned with what they say they want and be more concerned with what they're willing to do and the work they're willing to put in and to try to match that with what they want.
And that is the reason why that's terrifying for a lot of people, because they're afraid of failing. They're also afraid of looking silly, it not following through. If they've never experienced it, it's so foreign. It just seems so like, you know, when I was growing up, I'm like, man, I'm gonna move to LA. I've never even been to LA.
Right.
Been out here for like 20 fucking years now.
How did you get over that fear of failing? Because I think that is one of the biggest fears of people being like, well, I want to be rich, but I'm just gonna go work over here.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good. You know what? I mean, honestly, Enrico, it's like I'm really conscious of intake of like
what you're watching, you're reading.
Yeah, my entire worldview, my surroundings, who I surround myself with. So if I have a friend like you, and I come to you with a problem, you're a critical thinker. You ask me challenging questions, and then you problem solve with me. Sometimes you don't even do that. You just let me talk, and then you're like, well, how do you feel about it now? And I'm like, well, now that I talked it out, I feel much better about the situation. So it doesn't seem like it's this huge beast of a thing. Right. What we do is we create all these. It's in human behavior to protect yourselves from potential threats.
Right. Yep. And I say it's judgment, right? Because we have this bad rap about judgment, but what I want people to know is, based on us surviving, we have to judge to make these discernments throughout our life, right? You're walking past a dark alley. Do you go down that way, or do you stay in the lit? And that's a judgment. You're making a judgment because you don't know what's down that alley, but you're taking the information and saying, I'm going to judge that I'm not going down the dark path.
Absolutely. And making that decision on a daily basis through habitual routine. Very simple things. I brush my teeth every morning. I take a shower, like those types of things. Then ask yourself, like, what is it that you're like watching? Right?
The intake.
Your intake. So for me, it's like, you know, I love thrillers, dude. I love horror movies. I love like action movies. I love all that shit. But sometimes I will consciously turn all of that off. And I'll put on documentaries, I'll put on like comedies, dramas, all of it that has to do with like the world of business. And some of it is so fucking boring and I don't give a shit. And I mean, I was watching something on data mining the other day and I was like, what in the fuck? Why am I doing this? But it's being curious and it's educating and unlearning things. And like that me understanding that knowledge is power. So then it's like, okay, well, you know, like to your point, what you're saying about the dark alleyway, well, shit, I want to be in the fully lit part of the street. Or how about this? Get some sunshine on your fucking face. Take a walk. Move your body, right? Like, you know, you can't wait for your feelings to change. You have to change your feelings through action. I know you know this.
Yes.
So taking that action, forming it into a habit is what really started to change things up. Absolutely.
Yeah, those habits are key, right? Because we create habits from somewhere, right? We have all these influences, our parents, our friends, society, and those are where we start to create our habits. And what I hear you saying is, how are you being intentional about your habits? Right. And what I heard you say even about the data mining is just kind of like, even if you don't know why, creating value in the world, right?
Absolutely.
And creating value within yourself. Like you're like, this is boring, but even though it's boring, me knowing this is making me more valuable somewhere in my life.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's like it's very simple, right? You know, do I watch a 6-minute video on data mining, or do I watch 45 minutes of a procedural drama about somebody getting kidnapped and murdered?
Right.
Data mining helps me think in a different way than murder or kidnapping.
Definitely.
That is unconscious. So you're unlearning and relearning behavior. So even though you're intentional about data mining, unconsciously, you're getting in the rhythm of accepting that type of like content into your life and not being as interested in that.
And just constantly, being in that space of like curiosity, right? And through curiosity, now you're asking questions that are gonna be building yourself up, right? Because I feel like if one is curious and really purely curious and surrounds himself with other curious people, because it's one thing for me to like ask all these questions of myself, but then I get around someone like you, and then you ask me other questions that I might not have even asked myself, right? And that challenges me in such a great way, because I think for me, we have these unconscious behaviors, right? And it's like I always remember that scene in The Matrix where he had that thing inside of him, right? And they're trying to get it. And that's like our unconscious behavior. It's like we are experts at hiding the things about ourselves that are somewhat limiting ourselves, right? Because it's like we can't see it because it's trying to hide. It's literally it's like our psychology hiding from our mind, right? And so when you can get next to someone and then they can see you in a way that you're not even able to see yourself, but in a loving way, right? This is really about compassion and helping someone get to where they want to go, right? It's one thing to just kind of like shit on someone like, man, you ain't doing that. Like, it's another thing for someone who actually cares about you and to ask you the question, well, like, what do you want?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and I hear this from a lot of people that they struggle with like having people that have toxic traits. People aren't toxic, they just have toxic traits in their lives. And how do they find, the type of community that embraces and helps them level up. And that is kind of difficult to do sometimes. But you still have to cut out those people that have those toxic traits that bring you down. That's another thing too. I'm very selective about my fucking intake. Just the other day, true story. Just the other day, somebody came into town. And I don't really talk to this person anymore. They actually cause a lot of drama in my personal life, but they're my friend, and I noticed that they're one of those friends that always ask me for fucking favors. So they come into town, and I already knew that they were in town because I saw on their Instagram stories that they were in town, and they were like, "Hey, I would. Do you have time to take headshots of me?" And I was like, do I have time to take headshots? I take headshots? What the fuck are you talking about?
Right.
And we don't even talk like that. And you just and I can pay you too if you want.
If you want it.
And
for your time.
So I didn't respond. And because I didn't respond, the person was out with a mutual friend for dinner. And, this person texted me. She's like, hey, I'm out with this person. And I was like, cool, have fun. And then she's like, do you want to come? And I'm like, no. I what are you talking about? How are you just gonna hit me up after that absurd message of headshots, and then now you're just out and like I'm just gonna just drop everything and go hang out with you? Like, that's not happening. And then they were like, is everything cool between us? And the first thing that came to my mind was I just started laughing because I was like, I don't have any of this drama in my life at all. And everybody, if you're curious how I handled it, I was like, we're totally cool. But I'm not hanging out with you. And I'm not even
taking headshots.
Yeah, I didn't even respond. That was so absurd to me. I didn't even fucking respond to it. person unfollowed me on Instagram, like literally right after that conversation. But so did I. And,
So
and I didn't miss
basically,
anything
if you don't show up to their favor, you're dead to them.
Yeah, and I think people are afraid of that. I think people are afraid that like, well, I don't want to upset this person. I mean, but like I said, dude, I'm a grown ass man. I have a fucking child. I have responsibilities. I have a business. Like, by all means, let's trim the fat.
Yep.
You feel me? Let's trim the fucking fat.
And what I see in you is you're investing in yourself. You're investing in your future, and you are on the journey of creating generational wealth. That's how I see it.
Absolutely, yeah. I thank you for saying that. Yeah, I mean, I'm very hyper focused on that.
Yeah, and last time we were together, we had a great conversation around investing and how we feel as black men, as black people, it's so important for us to learn about investment, to start getting into investment. So I'm curious, just kind of like, what is your investment thesis? Like, how do you think about, what you're making as an entrepreneur, as a creative, and then how do you take that and invest it and make your money work for you?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been interested in income funnels, like from day one. So I always understood like, okay, if I'm making money here as my main source of income, this is going to go to debt, expenses, and then this money is going to go to investments. And what do those investments look like? And then how do I make more money off of those investments?
Right.
And I think as an entrepreneur, when especially in media, like we are, investing in ourselves actually like quadruples the return on investment.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's because literally tomorrow, you can make a fucking ton of money just because you struck the right deal at the right time.
It's exponential.
It's exponential. So when we talk about, what I was interested in was like passive income and different opportunities that I can see of like investing. So one of the things that I really look for is I look for industries that I know that are on the rise and that are historically stable. So I can just put my money somewhere and not worry about it. And maybe, and I know me, I'm going to check on it periodically anyway. Right. That's another thing. I think some people are like, I just want out of sight, out of mind. Like, I want to invest in Tesla and then like tomorrow become a millionaire. But in reality, it doesn't work like that, right? And you have to pay attention.
One thing that I've learned about wealthy people is that they move their money.
Everybody moves their money.
They don't let their money sit and get stale. Is they make sure that they understand what they're investing in and they take advantage of the opportunities of the time.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's so funny. It's so funny to me because the roadmaps are there. Like the top wealthiest people in the world, like 2 weeks ago, sold all their shares of X, Y, and Z, moved their money to X, Y, and Z. And the question that you have to be asking yourself, this is what I do as an investor. I'm like, well, where are you moving your money to?
Yes.
Where are you moving your money to?
Yep.
And then having a diverse portfolio.
Yep.
So
can you talk a little bit about that? Like, what does that mean?
Absolutely. To you? I want to hopefully clear up a misconception. A lot of times people hear diverse portfolio and they think that means I'm investing all my money in real estate and diversifying that.
Right.
And I'm investing all of my money into the stock market and I'm investing in different stock trades. But in reality, diversifying your portfolio to become very wealthy, independently wealthy, is you have some money in stocks, some money in bonds, some money in real estate, some money in crypto, art.
Yep.
And you pay attention to where you're getting the best return on investment.
Yep.
And understand that it's going to change. Last year, real estate wasn't doing shit for me really, but stocks and crypto were killing it. This year, so far, real estate is crushing it in crypto and stuff, but I'm not losing any money.
Right.
So understanding the rhythms of that and then doing your research. That's another thing that we don't do is that we don't do enough research. You don't have to, listen, you don't need to fucking reinvent the wheel. 1%, 2%, wealthiest people in the world, where do they make their money? How do they make their money? Most of them own businesses.
Yep.
Most of them own businesses in fashion, real estate, jewelry, media.
Yep. Either they started their own business, which they have a significant ownership of, or they're investing in portions of businesses that are doing well. That's where wealth is.
That's literally it. But remember, guys, it starts somewhere, right? To your point. So if you have that main source of income, then you're distributing it. and you're distributing it in areas that you have a lot of knowledge in. That's another thing too. So when I'm doing my research, for example, I'm like, well, how are all these motherfuckers making so much money, and where do they move their money? And, I remember once, I think it was like 2 years ago, I called a lawyer about offshore accounts. I was like, hey, man, I need to put some money. And he literally explained to me the process and when it's time to do that.
Right, and how much money you should start with.
Absolutely. Yes. And I would never fucking know that if I didn't pull the trigger to make that phone call.
Right.
And by the way, they want your business. So even if they're not getting your business right now, they're respectful of, they're not, I've never heard of this, of you calling somebody up and it's their job to do this shit, and you say, this is what I'm trying to do, this is how much money I have, and then be like, go fuck yourself. Nobody says that. They're going to be like, this is what you need to do.
But people do think that will happen.
Of course.
That's the fear.
Fear of failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True. I think, the diversity part is so important, and I try to think about it in the context of no matter what happens in the future.
Right.
Part of your investment should be going up. I think that's like the true diverse portfolio.
I mean, you're a futurist, and you're really good at like seeing trends, as they happen. How do you diversify your portfolio?
I have I like the concept of 30-30-40.
Okay.
So 30% of my investments are in low what's it called?
Low risk, right?
Low risk, right? And kind of low moderate risk. So things that I know are going to be
like
stable.
Bonds, savings,
over time, they've been stable. Real estate is pretty stable. So, and then I have the medium, right? So medium risk, where you have small businesses that you're investing in, starting your own business. I look at that as the medium, right?
Okay.
And how much money it takes to actually, make maybe 20, 30, 40, 50% each year on those type of businesses. And then I have the high risk, right? And so because of my age, my medium and high are more I have more investment in those categories than I do in my low, because what I want higher returns right now in my younger age. As I get older, I'm going to shift some of that more into the medium and low.
Yeah, that's smart.
So that's how I look at diversifying. I
love that.
And like you said, as a futurist, I try to think about, okay, where are we right now, and get very honest. Like, this is where we are now, and to assume, what if things don't change where we are? What's a good, what are good businesses to invest in?
Absolutely.
And then I think about, okay, now that I think about things not changing, how do I think things are going to change?
Right.
And I try to invest in both.
That's interesting. Yeah, because I feel like the answers are there. If you have that question of like, how do I become wealthy?
Yep.
Like, all of that information is there for you. The tricky part, and the part which you're really good at, and this is an X factor. Like, this is not easy to do. Is like understanding what's going to happen next.
Yes.
I think coronavirus, the whole COVID-19 thing, was very interesting because a lot of us understood how to seize the opportunity, and all of us also knew how temporary it was.
Yes.
So it is a little bit confused. I don't want to say confusing, but it is a little bit it's interesting to see how people are reacting when it's like something is like, for example, like crypto, when it's just now becoming like a thing, and stocks, people being able to invest in stocks.
Robinhood.
Yeah,
it's new.
Like, it's all new. So obviously, if you're a futurist, there's going to be some sort of regulation.
Yes,
that's going to and that like those wealthy people they're gonna so stop. Don't take your eye off of them. Because that's what you should be paying attention to. Yep. Remember, which is again another trend, is that an influencer now feels comfortable talking about how much money they make and how they make their money,
which is new,
very new, and that's change, and that's legal. So somebody like Elon Musk can say something, and shift the market.
Like I just invested, or these are my investments. This is what I'm thinking about. This is Doge, all that stuff.
But the funny part is like Elon Musk didn't start that trend.
No,
that trend really started becoming a thing with Donald Trump, because when he tweeted things out, it was changing the whole emotional state of the world.
Like you can do that? We didn't know you could do that.
So Elon Musk, and people forget. People forget this guy's a fucking multi-billionaire. He has a family. He's running 2 companies.
He's landing people on Mars.
So use your common sense. He's not necessarily tapped into what's going on and can relate to what you're going through.
Right.
He's not gonna. If he says we're not gonna do Bitcoin anymore, he's still going to be a billionaire. Yeah. You're going to lose a lot of fucking money if you didn't diversify your portfolio. Yeah. So yes, it's fun with the meme stocks. That shit is hilarious. There's so much fun to be had with that. But you know what? The people that are having fun, that risk isn't there.
Yeah.
The risk is mitigated.
Yeah.
I could be like Dogecoin all day, every day, but I'm not putting like my entire source of like a pot of money and putting in fucking Dogecoin. Who the fuck's doing that?
It's gambling, It
is gambling, and that's the reason why it's popular now.
It is because people love to gamble, because
remember we didn't have sports for a whole fucking year.
That was a big part of it. That was a huge part in how much money is bet on sports every single day.
That's why Barstool Sports and Dave Portnoy and all the bros, it became a big deal. Yep. Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of like talking about money as well in the very current, where it was like, I was noticing people who were used to betting and gambling started going into not even just crypto, but stocks. And then they were like, this is too boring. Yep. Like, I'm used to like these other things. And I think that was a big rush into crypto, where in that moment of like all these people like used to putting $1,000 on these games. And so we're at a really interesting time. And I think the good thing about that, the marketing side of that, is you have people who are doing that just for fun that now saw like, oh my God, this isn't gambling. Like it's similar, and I do say this about the meme coins. It is gambling, but when you go into a casino and you put $1,000 on black, you have 49% chance of winning, a little bit less sometimes, and the most you can make is what? $2,000. Like you're gonna double your money. When you gamble in crypto, the most you can lose is all your money, but the upside is actually exponential. Right. And so I think, that's creating actually really interesting dynamic. And it's not to say that
you have to be able to gamble.
But it's gambling. Yeah. And so if you're going to gamble,
have to be able to do that.
Yeah, and so it's like it's different than investing, and you're not putting your investment fund into that.
Correct.
Like if you go to the casino, there's nothing wrong going to the casino. Like it's fun
because it's fun money.
It's fun money. Same with nothing wrong with gambling on sports, but it's not investment.
So the reason why I want to make that distinction, I'm glad that we're making that distinction, is because even when we're talking about those income funnels, you should be setting aside money for fun money.
Fun money.
That's fun money.
Yep.
Like when you want to go out, you want to go travel, you do need to be budgeting for that.
Yes.
Like take that out if that's the kind of shit that you want to do.
Yep.
But you putting it all on black, bro, you got a problem.
Yeah.
Like anybody would say that because the house wants you to do that.
They're gonna win. And the fun money, the beautiful part about fun money is if you do it right, it should refill your cup.
Exactly.
That's the point of investing in it. It's an investment. And investments give you a return.
Absolutely.
So people are just, I'm having fun. It's like, well, is your cup being filled up so that when you get back to work, when you get back to whatever you're doing, you have the energy to be at the top level?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's, I'm only speaking for myself. But I have no fun losing money. Like that's not fun.
That's why
I
don't like to gamble.
Yeah, I don't bet on black. You won't find me in the fucking casino. Is what I'm trying to say.
No, me neither.
And I think that to your point, for me, the gamble, like the risk, like for me is like my brand, my business, because I believe in myself enough. Yep. And
you're betting on yourself.
I'm betting on myself, and it's like that's
who you should bet on.
Thank you. That's a much more fun game.
Yeah.
And I think when you're diversifying your portfolio and you get those income funnels set up, and you're like saying to yourself, okay, I'm gonna put a little money here, put a little money there. It does give you peace of mind. I mean, and again, you get a chance when you're diversifying your portfolio like that. You do get a chance to see what's working and what isn't.
Yep.
And you do get a chance to be like, well, I did try that. It just didn't work for me.
Yep. You're learning your lessons.
You're learning your lessons, but also understanding that it takes time. So that's another thing. People are like so pressed on instant gratification and instant returns. And to your point, say like you take out time and money to do the moderate and the high risk investment situations. So you will literally sit there and take a look at certain things and move things around.
Yes.
Not everybody does that. So some people think that like if I just dump all my money into this coin or this stock, you know, by the end of this week I'm going to be a millionaire.
Right.
And then they're like, what am I doing wrong if they're not? And it's like,
get impatient.
it doesn't work like that.
No.
It doesn't work like that.
And if there's one person I can tell people to go like follow and study when it comes to investing and being patient, it's Warren Buffett. You know, and we were talking about like where things are, you know, that's why I do that. As much as I'm a futurist, you know, you gotta look, he's one of the wealthiest men in the world, right? And he
for a really long time.
For a long time. And if you look at his gains and you look at the return of his investment and the people who invested with him, they've done very well. And if you look at what he invests in things that are happening right now that he thinks are going to stay the same. Like trains, Coca-Cola, you know, and very stable things. And so I think it's really important to just ask the question, why is one of the most wealthiest people in the history of the world doing that, and just to ask those questions and to watch what he's doing, because I think he very much understands how money works.
Oh, absolutely.
How investments work. And so we you know,
his partner,
we gotta learn. Charlie Munger. We have to learn how to watch, listen, and follow the people who's already taken the steps before us.
And this, and I'm glad that you said that, because it made me think of two things. The first thing is that a lot of people don't know that, you know, he has like shareholder meetings, quarterly reports. In fact, a lot of things that you invest in, they have reports where they say how they're doing and where they're going. They legally have to do that, and a lot of people don't read that. So unless you're hip to this, then you're reading it and you're like, ooh, I'm not really interested in that. I'm going to take my money out of it, or I'm going to do more. And Warren Buffett will literally talk about openly why they're making the decisions they're making.
Almost every choice they make. And his stockholders, they come in and they ask him questions. Why did you do that?
This is public knowledge, by the way. If people
go on YouTube, look it up. The last one just happened like a month ago.
This isn't like a private like situation. Anybody can have access to it. But another thing that he said that was pointed out to me when you were talking about Warren Buffett was his thoughts on Elon Musk and how he's like, and I'll never forget that he's too erratic and he's all over the place. And there's this new school of thought that's like, well, that's where we're going.
Like being all over the place, and less kind of like slow and traditional.
Right. Like slow and traditional is not going to give you as high of a return unless you're taking these big swings.
Like crypto.
Correct. So then when you see Elon Musk being erratic and changing his mind and being flippant, I was like, wow, Warren Buffett like totally was spot on with that. Right.
And how it's creating volatility in the things that he's building.
Yeah, and I'm just like, wow, he really understood that. He really understood that. He's like, oh, I don't like it.
Smart dude, man. Definitely go watch his shareholder meetings. It's a wealth of it. More information than we're getting. Definitely go check out what he's doing. And CJ, man, this has been just awesome learning about how you think and some of your story. So as we're ending, I would love for you to kind of give almost like a billboard of like, what do you want to leave with the people? You know, you have so much motherfucking valuable perspectives inside of you. You know, if you were going to share something that would help guide people on their path to whatever they want to accomplish, you know, what would you say to the people out there, especially our community?
Yeah, I would say begin each day with saying, to yourself out loud, this is what I do. It's that I will contribute to someone's life today, and I will be open to accepting that contribution for myself as well. And before you go to sleep, make sure you get a win. Don't ever go to bed with a loss. whatever it may be. Yeah, a quick W, whatever it may be.
Those are bars right there. Yeah. CJ, thank you so much for taking the time with us.
Appreciate it.
Thanks to y'all for tuning in. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace and love.